taking it all in one last time at Neyland Stadium, as for the third time this season on this home turf, Tennessee football leaves without a win. Vanderbilt comes in, smokes the Vols, basically. There's no other way to put it. My name is Trevor McGee, and alongside Alex Sarkis, and 45-24 in a game where Tennessee, frankly, got lost. That second half went as poor as it possibly could have, and it all started right before halftime.
Well, like you said, Trevor, it was a tale of two halves, and it was funny. In the first half, we've talked a few times this year about how Tennessee has failed to get points off of turnovers when they're not scoring defensive touchdowns, and Diego Pavia throws 2 early interceptions, and Tennessee turns both into eventual touchdown drives. So, you're not going to cite that as an issue there in that first half, and both teams went in the locker room tied up, and then, boom, second half happens, and now you're on the other end of a blowout. So a lot of issues in that second half, and it was just an all-around, just really disastrous night for the home team.
Yeah, coming into this one, when he was talking with the Vanderbilt paper earlier this week, asked for a key to the game. I gave him one simple that I didn't think Tennessee could necessarily achieve, but it was probably the most achievable thing to come out with a win, and it was to hold Diego Pavia to less than 50 yards rushing. What does he have? 171 yards on the ground. Almost quadrupled that. Tennessee loses this game by 3 scores. Diego Pavia's legs were the biggest difference in this one, and it comes back to Tennessee's defense faltered mightily in that second half. I believe, 138 rushing yards for Vandy in the second half, -6 for Tennessee. The ground game made all the difference in this one, and Diego Pavia took it for himself to make it the difference.
And it really all began in that third quarter. Tennessee had the ball for, under 4 minutes in that quarter. Vanderbilt possessed the ball for almost the entire third quarter.
Little over 11 minutes on 2 drives.
And, Tennessee could only settle for a field goal in that quarter when Tennessee posts 2 touchdowns, or when Vanderbilt does. So, that's the difference in this game when you really, when it comes down to it. And I remember Diego Pavia rips off a 41-yard rush on Vanderbilt's first drive after Tennessee went 3 and out, and they had a chance to answer. And so, that's the main difference here tonight. And once Vandy had that third quarter, and Tennessee, Mike Matthews drops a touchdown pass in the end zone, it was all Commodores from there.
Yeah, and you say it starts in the third quarter, but we can even take this back to how the Bama game went. Tennessee has that swing play right before halftime. They end up losing that game by 3 scores. We had a swing play right before halftime in this one. Tennessee loses by 3 scores. This time, it was a 15, or half the distance to the goal, hands in the face penalty on Jalen McMurray. Vanderbilt would have settled for 3 there. That's a 4-point swing. You would have gone into halftime as just, would have gone to halftime much closer, and Tennessee had a chance to win the middle 8. They didn't. Vanderbilt scores 14 points in that middle 8. They do so on a 6-minute drive to start the second half. They get that touchdown right before halftime as well. That's 14 points right there that Tennessee went from being ahead 21-14 with 12 seconds left in the first half to losing 28-21 with 8 minutes left to go in the third quarter. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think another thing you can look at is the rushing game. Deshaun Bishop had, I believe, 92 rushing yards in that first half, and then what does he end the game with? 97. And, they really went away from the run game there in that second half. So that's another thing you can look at. What happened? What happened to the running game? And, the way that Tennessee's offense runs, they rely on that a lot, as does every team, but especially Tennessee with the tempo that they run. But, man, just a lot of questions in that second half. You don't want to always point out effort, but when you see a margin on the scoreboard like this in a game that was tied at halftime, there's a few things that really raise an eyebrow.
Yeah, and if you talk about the run game, something I'm still questioning right now. Deshaun Bishop had 20 carries in this game. Star Thomas had 1. DeJuan Morris had 1. They've had a 3-man rotation this entire year. It's been fairly split carries, and earlier in the season, I had questions about why you're splitting it so much when there's some games where one guy stands out. Well, last week you had Deshaun Bishop stand out with his 26 carries, 24, whatever it was, career high in carries last week. Well, so they feed him this week. They give him his 20, but why is Star Thomas getting 1 carry in this game for no yards? Mind you, that 1 carry was right before the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter when you're already trailing by a couple scores. You're running the football. That was his 1 carry today. So I'm perplexed, to say the least, on what went wrong with the running game today and why you fed one hand when Star Thomas has been a very capable back this season, and he showed that with a 52-yard run last week.
And I don't know if we've touched on Vanderbilt's 314 rushing yards yet, but man, they went off in that category. And Tennessee was only held to 83 in 31 attempts. Vanderbilt had 37 and went off for 314. So, again, that's your difference. That's your margin. And we talk about margins so much in this sport. There's your big one tonight. As Josh Pate would say, a paper-popping stat. But that's the one here tonight. And big blowout on the scoreboard at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this season, overarching picture, you can only think of how weird this season was. Tennessee finally caps off the regular season, but you look at it in the offseason. They get a quarterback in April. Barely has any time to prep. It comes in after spring practice. Okay, not high expectations. Well, then you make it a 3-point game in overtime against a top 5 team in the country in Georgia that you frankly should have won. But now you sit 8-4. You go, what was that? 4-3 in home games. Unreal when Josh Heupel's lost 4 home games in his 4 years here. Before that, they go, 3-1 on the road this season. Josh Heupel has not been good on the road this season. That one loss comes to a playoff-bound Alabama team.
It's very fitting that we stand here in the regular season finale talking about how weird this season's been.
It's incredible that they come away with 8-4, and the most simple way to put it is they did what they were supposed to this season. You look at those 8 wins. The win total of those 8 wins of the opponents comes out to an average of probably about 4 wins apiece. And they took care of business against the teams they were supposed to be. You look at the 4 losses. As it currently stands, there's a fairly good chance that all 4 of those teams make the college football playoff.
Certainly.
So, just to wrap up, I suppose, the regular season, the only way you can put it is that Tennessee goes 8-4, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do.